away with in America. All right, next, fifth row. Sam Darnold, the rare staved off pumpkin mode. I guess, you know what, that's not rare. That's literally what happened in Cinderella. Went pumpkin mode, then went back to princess. Yeah. So there you go. Jordan Love, Geno, stay where they are. Unprecedented mountain history. But Mr. Consistency must remain Mr. Consistency. Brock Purdy moved up in a bye. Normally a bye, you're locked in. But because I am honest, and I said if Brandon Allen cooked, I would use it against him. Brandon Allen being terrible, I will give Brock Purdy some credit. There you go. Brew, on the other hand, was like, Brandon Allen cooks, it means nothing, but he struggles. He's wiping his shoulders, all this nonsense. And there's Bo Nix. Again, I'm going to be on the record here. I do not believe in Bo Nix. I said before the year he's the quarterback most likely to trick people into thinking he's good. It's going to be a classic.
So Nick has got Brock Purdy on row 5 of his Mahomes Mountain, and it's kind of interesting here because he's got him pretty low. I mean, he's not on the level with like the Kyler Murrays and the Kirk Cousins, or way down there with like the Aaron Rodgers and the Jameis Winston. So, you know, he definitely could be disrespecting Purdy a little more than he is right now. But, you know, if you take a look at Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, ton of injuries this year, and, you know, the health level of the team is just not what it was last year when he really lit it up. It was pretty much leading the league in like almost every category. So if you kind of look at it this year, Purdy's numbers definitely down, but let's compare him with some other quarterbacks that have suffered some major injuries and having a lot of their important teammates around them missing games this year. So one guy we can look at is Matt Stafford. And, you know, Stafford's numbers are very similar to Brock Purdy. So, you know, Purdy's got 13 touchdowns this year, which is pretty low for him through as many games as he's played. Stafford's only got 15. I mean, Stafford also has another game there. So, I mean, touchdowns pretty similar there. Also interceptions, Matt Stafford has 7, so he's only got 1 less than Purdy. He's got 200 yards more, you know, more pass yards than Brock Purdy, but that's very similar there. You know, Brock Purdy is missing one of these games, so pass yards are almost identical. Purdy has got Stafford in yards per attempt, so Purdy's got 8.5 yards per attempt. Stafford's only down at 7.3, so, you know, Nick always praises Matt Stafford as being a top 5 or, you know, one of these top-level QBs in the league. But if you look at the numbers, and, you know, both players, Purdy and Stafford, have, you know, had Avengers on their teams, right, as Nick would call them, missed time. And the numbers are very similar, except the yards per attempt. Brock has got him beat out there. 1.2 yards more per attempt for Brock Purdy versus Matt Stafford. So it's kind of funny that Nick is always just kind of acting like Brock Purdy is a so-so quarterback or an average quarterback. You know, nothing special, but the numbers are very similar to Stafford, who's in a, you know, very similar situation. So let's take a look at another quarterback who has really suffered some big injuries on the team that would hurt his numbers, that should hurt his numbers, and that's Baker Mayfield for the Tampa Bucks. So I will give it to Baker. He's got way more TDs than Stafford or Purdy. He's got 24 touchdowns. So, you know, even though the Bucks have sustained major injuries with like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, you know, Baker Mayfield is lighting up the stat sheet in the form of touchdowns. So he's got way more than those two guys. But Baker does have 1 more pick than Brock Purdy, and he's got 2 more picks than Matt Stafford. So, you know, Baker is a little bit up on the interceptions there. He's got 9 interceptions for the year. Yardage is almost exactly the same as Stafford, 2,799 yards for Baker Mayfield. So, again, that's very comparable there. And then, again, Brock Purdy has Baker beat on yards per attempt. So you can definitely see that Brock is, you know, really getting more yards for his passes. You know, when he completes these passes, more air yards for Brock Purdy, no doubt. Baker's down at 7.5, very similar to Matt Stafford. So Baker's got 7.5 yards per attempt there. So, you know, Baker's definitely got these two guys beat when it comes to touchdowns. But when you kind of look across the board, interceptions are similar, yards are similar, but Brock Purdy's got them all beat on yards per attempt. And, you know, there's been a lot of games this year with Brock Purdy where he's definitely airing out the ball. He's definitely targeting down the field a lot. Especially to people like Jovan Jennings. So, you know, it's kind of funny to see how much Nick praises somebody like a Matt Stafford, and then you look at the numbers and it's like, well, they're very similar in almost every category, except Brock has him beat out in yards per attempt. But then you look at Baker Mayfield, and it kind of, I think, helps Nick's case in a way, because Baker's got way more TDs than Purdy and Stafford. But again, Brock's, definitely airing out the ball more, throwing further down the field, getting more yards per attempt compared to these two other guys. So I want to know, what do you think about it? Do you think that, Brock Purdy, with all these injuries he's had around him and all these guys missing time, like the Debos and the Kittles, and even on the defensive side of the ball, you got Fred Warner playing with a broken ankle. Do you think, it's understandable that Purdy's numbers are down this year? When you look at touchdowns, you look at picks, yards are up there looking pretty good. Yards per attempt are really great. I think Purdy actually, among starting quarterbacks, is third in yards per attempt. I think it's just maybe Lamar and maybe Goff up above him there, but I want to say he's third in the league yards per attempt. So he's definitely targeting downfield more than almost every quarterback in the league. He's at the very top in yards per attempt. But some of the red zone struggles for the 49ers definitely haven't helped them, and that's why, Brock's got this low number of TDs here, only 13 touchdowns. But let me know what you think about it. Purdy, how do you assess him with all these injuries that have happened? Do you think he should be up there with the Baker Mayfield, 20-plus touchdowns, even though he's had a ton of injuries around him this season? Or do you think it's understandable that he's struggling in the TD category, struggling in the interception category, but he's still doing good when it comes to yards and yards per attempt? So let me know what you think about it in the comments section. Appreciate you for taking the time to watch this, and I will talk to you soon.